A movie that had so much promise that died instantly, maybe as fast as Steven Seagal's character did. And I remember sitting in the theater watching Executive Decision thinking, this one's got some promise here. And the next thing I know, Steven Seagal is dead faster than, I don't even know if the credits were done rolling. And you look around like, I was still a kid then, so Steven Seagal meant something at that time. And you're like, wait a second. Am I really going to watch Kurt Russell here on a plane for the next 2 hours? Executive Decision. It's the first and only thing that comes to my mind. You may think presidential. You may think other things. No, for me, it's Steven Seagal ruining my afternoon. Hopefully that's not the case here. We're not going to ruin your afternoon. We're going to give you the NBA parlay of the day. It's so simple. It's so easy. And I don't want to overcomplicate this by any means. We're also going to make you some money over at DraftKings. How about that? Freebies. You all love your freebies, and that's why we're going to hand over some good opportunity, at the very least, to turn $5 into $200. All right, let's build our first leg here. Like them, love them. And a reminder, we have the Likes, Leans, Locks video that's up for every single game on the slate. We have the 5 and 5, every single game in the slate, so you don't have to worry about any of that. By all means, just take advantage of what we have here on site. So the Brooklyn Nets, plus 105. They are a tight and dropping, mind you, money line favorite here. So I think when you look at overall what's happened with these two teams, I mean, let's be honest here, right? You're dealing with a squad in the Clippers who are just struggling right now to find their way without their main guy. Now, Kyrie is not Brooklyn's main guy, but at the same time, you have a team in the Nets that people think are falling off. Oh, my goodness, this team isn't going to be able to do anything. And they had this slow start, but they're starting to climb out. You win a game, you lose a game, you win 2, you lose 1. I don't think the Nets are going to go on like this 7-game win streak by any means. But, the Clippers, I think, are due for just the floor to kind of fall out. And you have a couple of games in a row that they were able to stack.
Sure, if I would have
I think there's a good opportunity here for the Nets to catch them. Short dog on the road, I understand that. But rightfully so. The Nets are getting healthier.
Is that homemade coffee there, Adam, or is that store?
What's that?
Is that homemade coffee?
Yeah, homemade latte.
Nice.
From like 6 o'clock this morning when I first came.
All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your Ol Pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday morning for a little Stokastic NBA strategy show. I'm joined by the one and only Adam Ship, my money sharer. Adam, what's going on, my friend? Looks like you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, weird morning for me. Kind of just like went to bed relatively early, but then just like woke up at 3 or 4 and just couldn't go back to sleep. So got up, worked on some NBA stuff, hopefully improved a little bit of stuff, prepped the entire slate. So this is probably the first time ever that I've actually had all of my projections and stuff done before a strategy show. But yeah, then went back to sleep for like an hour and a half. So still look like I just woke up.
Well, we'll definitely give you the benefit of the doubt. People are here to hear you rather than me on these. And this morning I was doing a little back and forth with the one and only Nolan Spud Kelly talking about some of our reads and scheduling. So I didn't write my article yet. Normally I have by now, but I'm traveling, as most of you can tell by the background. I am down here in the Outer Banks. My wife is getting awards from her running club tonight for finishing all 50 states, running a half marathon in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And then she also this year completed her 200th half marathon. So she is getting both those awards. And then she has several friends that came down here from her running group, and one of them who lives out in Washington State, she's out here. She completed her 50 as well as her 100 career half marathon. So that'll be fun. So we're in the hotel where that awards banquet is happening tonight. Looking forward to it. It'll be fun because then they have to go run a half marathon tomorrow. Me? Nah, I'll be sleeping in. Good times. But we've got a 6 gamer here. We're just focusing on the game starting at 7 o'clock and going forward. So right after us, you're going to get the college football live before lock. So we will be promptly out of here at 5 minutes of the hour. Maybe 3 minutes of the hour, but we're going to try because that is a great show. And you don't want to miss that over on the Stokastic channel. It'll be on the same YouTube channel here. It will just be a different live stream. All right, as everybody trickles in, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We've got some fun promos. But let's talk a little basketball first. Adam, we've got Toronto in Indiana taking on the Pacers. 230 implied point total here, second highest of the slate. Toronto is on a back-to-back. This is also a 3-4 for them. They lost last night, 132-113 in Oklahoma City. Pascal Siakam out with a groin issue. Precious Achiuwa out with an ankle issue. Fred VanVleet, this is a back-to-back, and he has missed some games. He's dealing with an illness. And then Khem Birch, questionable, though he has missed the last 10 days. On the Indiana side, they last played Wednesday. They don't play again until Wednesday. So this is like a double expansive. This is a deserted island game, just not an island game. But we've seen their second-round pick, Andrew Nembhard, start the last two games, playing 34 and 28 minutes. I think he crested over or right around 30 minutes the game prior to that, coming off the bench. A lot of moving parts here. Adam, take us through Toronto.
Yeah, so definitely moving parts here. VanVleet left yesterday's game early with the illness, as you mentioned. So we're definitely have to pay attention to that status. But assuming that he's in, we can expect more of the same, what we've seen recently. We did finally get the big Chris Boucher game yesterday. Doesn't change my opinion of him too much. Like he played through garbage time, so I think that helped, but he also conceivably could have just closed that game anyway. We've seen his playing time be really inconsistent though, so I think he just still remains a guy that can benefit with Siakam out, can benefit with Achiuwa out. It's not always going to be him. Sometimes it's going to be Otto Porter, which we've already seen. We also saw Thad Young 2 games ago play 26 minutes. He barely even stepped on the floor in the second half yesterday. So I do think that those guys are all volatile, but that's pretty appealing in tournaments. As far as the main pieces, you know what you're going to get. Increased usage from VanVleet if he's in, increased assist percentage as well with Siakam out, increased assist percentage for Barnes, increased usage for Anunoby, a little bit of increased usage for Trent, not much of an increase in anything else for him, but a really good matchup for these guys. So if VanVleet is in, it's more of the same. If he's out, then you're just looking at even more usage for Anunoby, Barnes, and Trent. You maybe see Banton or Flynn start. Not sure what they would go with here, but certainly could open up some backcourt value as well.
Yeah, my guess would be probably Malachi Flynn would get the start if VanVleet's out. But you're right, it could be a variety of things. Though it gets a little tougher when Siakam's out because now he would be their secondary facilitator, and
right.
that causes trouble. And is it really going to be Gary Trent? Oh, look, I have the ball. I'm going to shoot it, right? Don't know what's going to happen there.
Right, and because normally what we see with Toronto is when one guy, no matter who it is out, they go to this year it's Christian Koloko. Last year it was Svi Mikhailuk or others. But when Siakam's already out, like you said, Koloko's already starting, and they're missing their secondary ball handler, or really this year their primary ball handler. So we have seen Banton ahead of Flynn in the rotation, but we've certainly seen a lot of Malachi Flynn starts in the past when VanVleet's out. So my guess would be Flynn as well, but Nick Nurse mixes it up sometimes.
All right, now we can move over to Indiana here. Again, the rookie second rounder they're starting. I believe he went to Florida. Andrew Nembhard. He's relatively discounted, trustworthy. Well, that's a different story here. We've seen Tyrese Halliburton. Price keeps coming up, but he looks really good. Price not quite where it ought to be. This should be a good one for Miles Turner. Not really a lot of competition there on the glass. How are you reading the Pacers in tonight's matchup?
I think they look good as well. Toronto, obviously a solid team, but like you said, their front court, missing Siakam, it makes Miles Turner look good. He's still really cheap. He tried to let everyone down last game. He got in some foul trouble early. Looked like he might not pay off his $5,700 price tag. But he came back in, still got to like 31 or 32 minutes and gave us a solid game. And 6,300 today, I think still just too cheap for Turner. He's been extremely productive this year. He has a usage rate north of 24%, just shy of 25%. He's averaging 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. And this is somebody on average that's playing 28 to 29 minutes. But if all goes right and this game is competitive and he avoids foul trouble, you can easily get mid-30s from a guy averaging 1.3 fantasy points per minute, and only $6,300. So he's going to look really good. Halliburton's been fantastic all season long, averaging 1.36 DraftKings points per minute. I think he looks really good. Those are the two that really stand out. $6,600 Buddy Hield looks fine. $5,500 if you want to get gamble on Mathurin is fine. He's been obviously really good when he's on the floor this year. Last game, he only played 24 minutes, but we've also seen plenty of games off the bench where he plays more. Nembhard still played 28 minutes last game with Aaron Naismith back. If Nembhard remains in the starting lineup, I expect you're getting 26 to 28 minutes from him again at 3,900.
I'm just looking at the standings here because chat says these teams aren't going to start tanking till Christmas. They're tanking now. The only wrinkle is some of the teams that would really like to win, such as Minnesota and the Lakers. We can put Miami and Philadelphia in those mix. They're losing, which is the world is upside down at this point. So the standings, they'll sort themselves out, I would think, by probably somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But yeah, the teams are already starting to tank at this point. I mean, look, not Golden State. The Pistons have already been slow to bring back some of their injured players. Same thing there with Oklahoma City. You've got even the winning teams like the Bucks, who lead the league 10-2. They are, semi-resting Giannis at this point. God only knows what's happening with the Clippers. They would like to win. They're just they are now 2 games above 500, but heavy minutes going to Paul George. That may not end well. And then what was the other surprise team? Oh yeah, the Jazz. Whoever had the Jazz at 10-3 at this point in the season, congratulations. You probably won the $2 billion mega millions lotto. All right, Adam, anything else from this game, or shall we meander our way over to Boston and Detroit?
No, I think that's it. Just a really, really appealing game. A lot of ownership coming into this game.
And it definitely makes sense. Tonight there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of pending news that we really have to worry about. That doesn't mean it won't happen. It's Saturday in the NBA, which is only slightly less crazy than Sunday in the NBA. But tonight it feels like, other than something completely unexpected, we don't have a lot of Q tags we're waiting on. Like last night, you had the Anthony Davis. Oh, he's going to play. Oh, wait, now you might have an illness, right? And then he ends up playing. But hopefully no oddities here. Boston at Detroit. Boston nearly double-digit favorites here in Detroit. They are playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, as well as this being a back-to-back. Last night, they beat Denver in Boston before heading off to Detroit. That game was a 131-112. You've got Al Horford. This is a back-to-back. There's a potential he gets the night off. Brogdon missed Friday's game with the hamstring. There's a chance he gets to sit tonight as well. On the Detroit side, also a back-to-back for them, and 3 and 4. They lost last night in New York, 121-112. Cade Cunningham did not play. He's got a shin injury. And then Marvin Bagley, rumored to be ready to return, has not yet. He has not played yet this season. Detroit, yeah, not very exciting. Let's start off with Boston here. Do you think Horford sits in this one? It would make sense.
It would make sense. He hasn't played a back-to-back yet this year. If Brogdon misses, I don't know, maybe they lean towards Horford playing, just as they're not down 2 of the main pieces in their rotation. But yeah, I'm not really sure on Horford. If he does play, he's 5,400. I think he actually looks really good here. If he doesn't play, you probably get Luke Cornett. Maybe you get Noah Vonleh. They're both min salary on DraftKings. Cornett, power forward, Vonleh center. So I think Cornett's the more appealing of the two. And then you would also, if Brogdon and Horford are out, you're talking about a lot of minutes to go around at that point. You could get Blake Griffin too. He started the last time Horford was out, actually. But same situation as Cornett, 3K flat, power forward. But then you also just get a lot of minutes to go around. Like, we already have Grant Williams starting. He started the last 3 games. He played a bunch of minutes again yesterday. Derek White got to 24 minutes off the bench. Pritchard played 14. If Horford's out, they're probably not giving 48 center minutes to a combination of Cornett, Vonleh, and Griffin. They could, but I kind of think you get some Grant Williams mixed in there, which would open the door for more minutes for Sam Hauser and White and potentially Pritchard too.
We had this exact same conversation last Friday, I believe, where I remember you bringing up Vonleh and Luke Cornett, and I made some stupid joke. Of course, the stupid jokes, yeah, those like, you're like, what do you mean stupid joke, EMac? That's every show that we do together.
Never heard you make that.
But that was a similar moving parts on that one. I just want to take a peek here at some of our point per dollar plays. So most everybody on Boston, relatively neutral. We do have Brogdon in and Horford in. Going to need one of those guys to slide out of there for us to really get anything above average here on DK. If we look at the just Boston, and I'm just sorting by the value column, the point per dollar over there on Fantasy Cruncher, similar thing. Everybody's sort of neutral. You're not going to hate to get them, but it would definitely help out if Horford or Brogdon sits. I do want to give a shout out to Hannah Banana joining the Stokastic YouTube channel. Please tell me you live in Savannah. There's your dumb joke of the morning, Adam. Hannah Banana living in Savannah. That would be just amazing. It would be amazing. And Adam slowly
not enough coffee in the world for that.
Adam slowly having an out-of-body experience, wishing he was anywhere but right here. All right, Adam, take us through Detroit. Not like that's an upgrade of dealing with my jokes, but it is still an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, this team is really, really difficult to talk about right now because we don't have an injury report since they played yesterday. We know Cunningham didn't play yesterday, so I assume he's questionable at best. Alec Burks played 25 minutes yesterday in his first game back. I have no idea if he's playing back-to-backs. If he does, he's only 4,400. Like if Cunningham's out and Burks is playing, he actually looks somewhat appealing here. My guess is that he's not going to play. Bagley maybe plays today. Like maybe their thinking was hold Bagley out yesterday, play Burks, and then you can hold Burks out today, play Bagley. That would make some sense. Bagley, 5,300, center only. Probably not going to get to him one way or the other. But the Cunningham news obviously is big. Jaden Ivey was absolute garbage yesterday. Only played like 25 minutes, but his price tag didn't move. He's still $5,700. And that's a price point where even if Cade Cunningham plays, I'm interested in Jaden Ivey, particularly if Alec Burks does sit this game out. And then if Cunningham's out, I'm just going right back to Ivey. If he fails again, he fails again. But 5,700 is too cheap for him under normal circumstances, much less if Cunningham sits. The guard rotation, if Cunningham is out, is also an interesting one. We got Corey Joseph getting the spot start, and we didn't really get any semblance of what his rotation was supposed to look like because he immediately picked up 2 fouls in the first minute, went back to the bench, came in to close the first half, picked up his 3rd foul in 46 seconds, went back to the bench, opened the 3rd quarter for 4 minutes and never came back. My assumption when they said he was starting was that you were going to get like 18 minutes or so, and that Killian Hayes was going to play around 20 minutes, and then, Burks was going to cut into that. I obviously thought Ivy was going to be playing more minutes than he did. Nothing obviously changed my opinion there, but there is some non-zero chance that it's just like actual starter minutes for Corey Joseph if Cunningham is out. I just don't totally buy that because Joseph hasn't even been in the rotation. And the way that I typically read that is they're putting him in the starting lineup so Hayes can keep his role with the second unit. So that's kind of why I played it the way I did yesterday. If Burks and Cunningham are both out, though, then you probably do get at least a little bit more run from Joseph, maybe like a 22-26 split or something like that with Hayes if Joseph can avoid foul trouble. So there's just like a lot of moving parts in this backcourt. And then all of that's without mentioning, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, Boyan, they all look fine. Nothing that really stands out. I do think the $3,900 price tag on Jalen Duren's somewhat interesting at 2% owned, particularly if Bagley is out today. I don't know what this front court rotation is going to look like if Bagley is back. My assumption is that you're getting minutes with Bagley at the 4, but that doesn't have to be the case. You could just get a 3-center rotation that's absolutely terrible for DFS. But particularly if Bagley's out, no ownership coming into Duren, not a ton of ownership. He is a good point per minute guy, and it just takes a little bit of Isaiah Stewart foul trouble to have a really good play on your hands.
All right. I saw it down. I think it was downside of me tweeting. I'm sure they were subtweeting you last night, but saying something about Joseph and some over-owned player. Yeah, the 2 fouls in the first minute for Joseph, horrible. 4 fouls overall. It's an oddity of a game. Welcome to
He wasn't subtweeting me. He was just saying he was on. Joseph, and I was calling him a moron.
I know. I just assume any tweet that he makes is something shading towards you or Lindquist. So in any event, nothing overly exciting here other than Jaden Ivey on DK at 5,700. He looks good regardless here. So keep our eyes on that one. Let's see here. We'll move on to our next game. Then we can sell something. But let's talk. We're on a roll here. Let's keep talking some basketball. Moving on to Atlanta at Philadelphia. You get the Hawks 3-point underdogs here. You have 221.5 implied point total. This is a 3-4 for Atlanta. However, they were off last night. They do play again on Monday. The only real injury concern we have currently for them is Bogdan Bogdanovic has not yet played this season, still recovering from a knee issue. Should be out for another week. Then we shall see. Philadelphia plays again on Sunday versus Utah. The only major injury, of course, it's a big one, is James Harden here. Let's start off with the Atlanta Hawks. Intriguing backcourt here, Adam, with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, at least from a basketball standpoint. You got the two really good passers and shooters, and one really good defender and one sub-zero defender. What do you like here from the Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, they're priced up, so I think it's going to be sort of difficult on this slate to prioritize them unless we do get a bunch of value opening up. I mean, if we get Horford out and we get Brogdon out and we get Cade and Burks out, it's going to start getting a lot easier to get to Young and Murray. But as things look right now, assuming they're in, you're only getting about 4% ownership coming to Young, 2% to Murray. 4% chance of being optimal for Murray, 6 for Young. So, pretty low priority plays there, even though they are so good. But, certainly guys that are going to be really, really appealing if more value does open up. Young averaging about 35 minutes per game this year. Murray averaging about 36 and a half. Both obviously really, really good point per minute guys. Murray at 1.28 DraftKings points per minute, Young at 1.33. It's just a matter of if enough value opens up to get there.
All right. What do you think about the front court here? We've had some up and down moments with Clint Capella. We've also can say mostly down with John Collins. Didn't we just saw this matchup, right? This was it was earlier this week.
I don't know. It all runs together.
It does, but I vaguely remember something about looking up Capella and how he had been doing against Embiid, and he actually is not too shabby, right? Oh, now my schedule is my ESPN schedule not doing what I would like it to do. So let's just hand this over to you. No James Harden. We've got in a much improved Tyrese Maxey. You've got Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris that are going to need to pick up the slack here on from field goal attempts. What would you like to do here with the Sixers?
So once again, no Harden. We do have Embiid. We've gotten 2 games of that so far this year. Maxey has a 25% usage rate, 28% assist percentage. We got the really bad game from D'Anthony Melton last time out. And I had talked about that on the show, that I was really nervous about him. I didn't really know what to do with him because he is still playing around 30 minutes. He played 28 last game. He had played like 32 or 33 the game before that. And the same thing today, 6,400, getting 15% ownership. The issue is that he's just been completely non-existent when he's been on the floor with Joel Embiid this year, even when you take James Harden off. So I think there is still a path at this price tag for Melton to get there. He's been around a fantasy point per minute guy in his career, but he's played 94 minutes now with Joel Embiid on the floor and with James Harden off. Not only is he averaging 0.68 DraftKings points per minute, which is obviously terrible, but he has a 9.7% usage rate, 12.7% assist percentage. He's just not been involved. So I'm still concerned about him at that ownership just because, certainly he could produce at a higher rate, but if he does, then you're just getting him at the ownership that, then he's just kind of, he's owned anyway. I think there's a good chance that he just kind of continues to underperform where he's being projected right now, as long as he's sharing the floor with Embiid. For Maxey, he's played 101 minutes with Embiid out there without Harden, 28.9% usage, 1.03 DraftKings points per minute. Embiid, 1.24 DraftKings points per minute without Harden on the floor, nearly a 38% usage rate. So the pricing on this team has become a little bit more difficult to get to. Embiid 11-1 looks good if you can get there. Again, that's going to depend a lot on how much value there is. 8K for Maxey, assuming he's going to be playing 37, 38 minutes, is reasonable, but I think still pretty much correct. And the same goes for Harris at 7,500. So I wouldn't say there's a lot that I love here. Like, I'm obviously happy to get to Embiid, but that's going to be dependent on what happens elsewhere on the slate. Maxey, I think, is pretty much correctly priced. I'm nervous about Melton's production.
All right. Yeah, deja vu. This matchup occurred all the way back on Thursday. So yes, things running together here. I thought it was like more like a Monday, Tuesday, but we did see Atlanta. We saw this matchup in Atlanta winning 104-95. Capella looked really good in this one. He had 20 rebounds, 18 points. It's always a tough one for Capella to get a bunch of shots off. Embiid was his usual effective self, not doing well from the 3-point line. But aside from that, this game does have its moments. At least things are consolidated here for the most part. The pecking order is pretty straightforward for both teams, especially with Harden out. Anything else from this game, or would you like me to sell something while you go look at Tinder tonight? Checking out tonight's action, shall we say? I see in chat. I see in chat today, people saying, "Hey, is anybody else having a tough NBA DFS season?" Heck yeah, I am. However, PrizePicks, along with DK showdown slates and then sports wagering, has been more than saving the season for me. However, the main slate just has not been very, very good to me at all. But let's talk a little bit about PrizePicks here for just a hot minute here. We do have a deal with them where you can get 1 month free of Stokastic if you have not yet signed up for PrizePicks. I'm going to give you another way to get 2 free months of Stokastic on top of this with BetMGM. We'll talk about them a little later in the show. But with PrizePicks, you have a lot of fun. There's no sharks, no optimizers, no mass multi-entries. Basically, you're choosing from 400 or 500 different questions or player props that they have out there across all sorts of sports. You can build lineups with 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions in them. You decide over or under whatever lines they are setting. These are dynamic. If you pick a 5 player card, you get to pick a flex version of this. You get 10x of your entry fee. If you get all 5 right, if you get 4 right, you double up. If you get 3 right, you still get about 30 or 40% of your entry fee back. This is a lot better deal than doing a just straight parlay where you got to get them all right. They also have flex options with the 3 and 4 question cards, or you can do a 4 question card without the flex option and still get 10x. Of course, you got to get all 4 right in those, or you do not get any money back. But it's a lot of fun over here. If you go through the link below us here, and you sign up, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match with your first deposit. You put in 10, they give you 10, you put in 50, they give you 50, you put in 200, they're only going to give you 100 because it's a $100 deposit match, but those funds come out of your account first. It's a lot of fun over there. I enjoy playing at PrizePicks a lot. Not only can you utilize OddsShopper for free to check out the PrizePicks wagers, we do have a PrizePicks page. I'm going to drop this link into chat. You'll see we have various tabs for props across the site here. Some of those are premiums. Some of those are free. The PrizePicks tab is free, but you can see that it sorts the best win percentage. That's all we care about here. There's no real big or juice within PrizePicks. Of course, they're shading their props one way or the other, so it sort of accounts for that. But they want you to have fun. They want you to have a good time. So they have a lot of these here that give a little bit of wiggle room here. So it's enjoyable. You can do single game contests over there. The only rules are you cannot pick the same player twice in the same card. You would have to build out another card, and you need players from at least 2 different teams. Doesn't have to be 2 different games. You can do Sunday night football, island game style, a variety of ways you can play this. Right now, they have college football, NBA first half, NBA second half, NFL first half, NFL, NHL, college basketball, CSGO, PGA, tennis, MMA, Rocket League, whatever the hell that is, and F1. And you can build cross sports bets here. It is a lot of fun. Check out PrizePicks. All righty, Adam, let's go back to the good stuff here. The good stuff would be Charlotte at Miami. This game, I don't know. Looks like Miami's probably going to roll with this. Charlotte is double-digit underdogs at 10.5 points. This one's in Miami, just a 212 over/under. This is the lowest on our slate. The Hornets last night were off, but this is the 3rd game in 4 nights for them. They next play on Monday. They are still without Ball. Hayward, of course, is made of paper mache. This time it's his shoulder that is keeping him from the games. And then Dennis Smith Jr. questionable, dealing with an ankle issue. Miami, this is an island game for them. They do not play again until Monday. The only questionable players they have are Tyler Hero. He has missed the last 2 games with a sore ankle. And then Dwayne Dedmon dealing with some plantar fasciitis. I think he's played in all the games. He's playing, if I remember correctly, about 15 to 17 minutes per game. If he is out, there'll be somewhat of a trickle-down effect. And then don't play Udonis Haslem under any circumstances whatsoever. What do you got here for us from Charlotte?
So it's a scary spot for the Hornets going into Miami. Obviously a good defensive team, only a 102 implied total for Charlotte. One thing I did find interesting, though, is Charlotte ran an extremely condensed rotation in their last game. I don't know if they'll do that again, but Theo Maledon played 7 minutes and 37 seconds. JT Thor played 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Thor's someone that in a lot of games this year has been playing 10 to 12 minutes, and you've been getting like double-digit minutes from Theo Maledon as well. If both of those guys are going to be essentially cut, you got a lot of playing time for a lot of these guys. Terry Rozier played 43 minutes. PJ Washington played 35 minutes and didn't even close the game. Kelly Oubre played 38. Plumlee played 39. McDaniels played 34. I'm certainly not projecting that much run again, but I do think it's interesting that there's a chance you just have a lot more upside in these Charlotte guys than you have for a lot of the season based on playing time. So I'm still going 36 minutes for Rozier, 32 for Oubre, 32 for Washington, 28 for Plumlee, but their playing time did look really good last game, and in Plumlee's case, it's kind of been trending in the right direction anyway. So really, really tough matchup. Not a lot of ownership coming here. I do think they're sort of appealing in tournaments just because there's a chance that, like, basically if Charlotte continues to run the rotation they ran last game, the entire industry is under projecting these guys because they haven't adjusted for it, and they shouldn't. Like, you can't just look at the last game and say, oh, everybody's going to play a ton now, but there's obviously a decent chance it happens again.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I always enjoy listening to you and Josh, because I know you go down painfully and do rotations and minutes for each of these games as you build out your own projections. So that is something that is always interesting to see you guys typically get ahead of the curve, if at all possible. But it's one of those things that if you're aggregating projections, you're going to, which I don't think is a bad thing, but you're going to just sort of normalize everything. Whereas if you have certain projection sources or sites where you can, or just are listening to particular content, you can hear where you might have an advantage. And that's something that's very, very important for the NBA, because there's all sorts of things that change, not just the matchup, where the game is, back-to-backs, multiple games in a short period of time. You get teams that play people differently on different matchups, or if they're missing a certain player. There's all sorts of nuances here that a lot of that's taken care of in the projections. But again, the projections are just a median outcome. This is where we can hear what people like Adam have to say on these, where they're diving into this with an even finer level of detail. And this is what makes their bones for them. So it's always good to hear what you and Greg have to say on these.
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep in mind, like, it's probably more likely that these guys play to their season average than what they did last game. I used to be a lot more aggressive sort of in spots like this, and it would burn me a pretty good amount. But I think it's still good to at least be aware of, okay, like, this is where they project, and this, like I said, you shouldn't, if you're looking at a site that does projections and suddenly they're projecting 40 minutes for Terry Rozier, you probably shouldn't use that site because they're going to miss a lot of the time. But it is important, I think, to be aware at least, that there's probably a little bit of upside volatility here for these guys, just based on the rotations we saw last game.
Yeah, and that's another way to put it. Because again, projections just, it comes out with the median outcome. That's why we have the boom bust tool. That's why we have ranges. That's why we use various standard deviations or randomness, if you will. There's a variety of ways to get to these. And this is where you're changing maybe where the outcome bars are. Maybe it's a little higher for certain cases. Maybe we go a little lower if there's new wrinkles coming in, like what the hell is Marvin Bagley going to do to this rotation, as opposed to, hey, did somebody fall out of favor for Charlotte? Perhaps we're seeing some upticks here. So that's I guess a better way of saying it or gauging it. You're just kind of shading things one way or the other, which is very reasonable. All righty. Miami Heat. This feels like a good game for Bam Adebayo, or a good matchup at least. Is Bam Adebayo ever going to be Bam Adebayo again?
I hope so. I hope I still have money when he decides to. Yeah, it's been a frustrating year, but really nobody on this team right now getting ownership. We do have Tyler Hero projected in. That's a big deal. He's been the best rebounder on Miami other than the centers, other than Adebayo and Dedmon. He's the highest usage guy on the team. So obviously if you take him out, it's just going to make a lot of things look better, whether that's opening up more minutes for Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, whether it's opening up more usage for Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry. Everything just looks better if Hero's out. If he's in, I don't think there's anything that's a true priority here. I do still think Bam's reasonable at 8,300, but that price tag is coming up a bit. He's still only averaged 1.03 DraftKings points per minute this year. He has a 24% usage rate. That's good to see. Just still not producing at as high a level as you would like. Jimmy Butler, coming off of the massive game last time out, said he hopes he doesn't have to do that again all season long. So that was encouraging to hear from a DFS standpoint. But still a 24.5% usage rate overall and 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. He's been the best point per minute guy on the team. He's also $9,100 and pretty expensive. So if Hero, if he's in and not limited, he's averaged about 32 minutes per game this year. he's a perfectly fine option as well. But I don't really think there's any priorities here if Hero's in. If Hero's out, then, like I said, everything starts to look better. If Dedmon is out, maybe you get some more run for Bam. He's already averaging 35 minutes per game this year, so I don't want to go too crazy. Like, I'm not going to just project him for 38 minutes or anything, but, maybe he gets an extra minute or two on average if Dedmon sits.
Yeah, so the interesting thing on BAM, so just, I like to go look at basketball reference here because it's easy to start comparing seasons. If you highlight the different seasons and click on them, you can get averages from the little pop-up window. They also have a very clean interface or display for their per 36, which I think that's also something that's important to look at, especially if you're doing like PrizePicks or sports wagering. Just kind of knowing where the per 36 is helpful. Now, someone like Bam, so looking just at his 6 seasons here, he's playing 35 minutes per game. We're 12 games into the season, or he's played in 12 games, started all of them. That is the most minutes he's ever played. Last year he played 32 and a half. The year before, both years before, was 33 and a half. He's averaging his lowest fantasy points, his second lowest scoring, and his most minutes in that time frame. His fouls, while that looked like it might be a little bit of an issue in some of the games where they were all collected together and he got 4 or 5 or fouled out, if we look at his per 36, he's up to 3.6. Last year it was 3.4. The 2 years prior, he was hovering right around 2.5 combined. So the fouls are coming up just a little bit, probably as he gets, losing a step, taking on more responsibilities, etc. The personnel changing around him. That makes sense. But he hasn't not gone over 50 fantasy points this year, Adam. That for me is kind of concerning. He's playing all these extra minutes, yet still just hovering right around a 40 fantasy point output for just what's going to happen. We like the volatility here. Any other thoughts on that before we look at some other stuff?
Somebody in chat, I lost the name already. It was Mike Gray said Vincent's price doesn't move and keeps doing well. He's another one. I didn't mention him specifically, but if Hero's out, you're probably getting a nice chunk of minutes from Gabe Vincent at 4,600. He is at a price point, though, where if Hero's in, it's very difficult for him to get enough minutes to look good. So he would just be another one, kind of like Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, that is essentially not interesting at all if Hero's in, and then becomes more interesting if he's out.
All right. I see a friend of the show, Curtis Go Blue, is asking, can you withdraw to PayPal on PrizePicks? I believe you can. The one thing I do like about PrizePicks, I have it set up to just go directly into my bank account. This is the only site that I've been on that does that without doing an ACH withdrawal or something like that. This is just rather helpful. You're able to just sign up, once you've confirmed your bank account, you just send it right to your bank account. Very helpful. For me, I prefer that rather than rerouting things through PayPal, but you'll have to check there with them if they do have PayPal. But it looks like you can also cash out with your favorite brands instantly into some credit, or what do you call them? Gift cards. And it looks like there might be some bonus offers attached to them. I see they're highlighting things such as Delta, Starbucks, Domino's, Target, etc. Maybe if you get a little 3 or 4% on your cash out, that might be worth exploring there. I will now be checking into that because, who doesn't like to get gift cards at the holiday season? All righty. Anything else from this game, Adam?
Nope.
All right, we got 2 left here. This is a very tight slate. You've got 2 games at 7. You've got 1 at 7:30, 1 at 8, and then 2 at 8:30. So it's a very compact slate. That is helpful when it comes down to a news perspective. We are not hanging out deep into the night, wondering what the heck is going to happen. But that reminds me, let's celebrate this with just a second, Adam. You can kick your feet up. You can watch chat. You can do something enjoyable. Just tune me out. It's fine because chat, you need to listen to this. I'm going to tell you about the BetMGM risk-free promotion that will get you 2 months of Stokastic Platinum free. All right, we got your attention now. I certainly hope I do, because I got an offer for you. Well, actually, it's BetMGM. So if you are not yet signed up with BetMGM, if you go through the link below us here in the description, okay, you have your Stokastic account already created. You don't even have to have an active subscription. You just have to have your Stokastic account created. And this is how you're going to earn 2 free months of All Access Stokastic. All you got to do is sign up, make your first wager. It needs to be at least $10. Once it settles, win or lose, you're going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum. Sounds pretty amazing, right? All you got to do is sign up below, get your Stokastic account set up, click on the big MGM button. It's going to appear after you register or log in if you already have an account, and then complete the necessary steps with BetMGM. Boom, you're going to have it. So for those of you that are creating your account, deposit at least $10, make your first paid bet. Once that settles, you're going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Premium. But wait, there's more. There's always more. Your first bet is also risk-free. You can wager up to $1,000. That's right, up to $1,000. If you win, well, congratulations, my friend. And if you lose, well, guess what? You're going to get a cushion of up to $1,000 in site credit, depending on how much you wagered in your first bet. Act fast. Time is running out on this offer. Getting 2 free months of Stokastic is going to be lost like dust in the wind sooner than you think. All right, Adam, time to circle back. We're coming in. And there we go. See, Adam was out. Now he's back. He was having an out-of-body experience. You should what?
I should have set an alarm clock.
So you could hit the snooze button on me.
We got really close to napping.
All right. Well, don't worry. We only have about 15 or so minutes because we got to get out early for the college football live before lock with Ben Raza and Matt Gajeski coming up next. So I'm going to hand over to you, the Portland Trailblazers, underdogs by 5.
Where'd it go? Oh, Jared Viss just said Okongwu out. Okongwu is out on the most recent injury report. So probably good news for Clint Capella and probably for John Collins. Center minutes are really productive for John Collins, and not having Okongwu as his backup is likely to mean more minutes for Clint Capella.
All right. Josh Stenzel. Yes, longest ad read of all time. Also most lucrative ad read of all time. Up to $1,000 risk-free bet and 2 free months of Stokastic. That's a pretty good deal. You don't get many of these out there. It's like free money twice. Trailblazers, 5.5-point underdogs here in Dallas. This is a 3-4 for Portland. They were off last night. They do not play again until Tuesday. Yusuf Nurkic is questionable. He's missed the last 2 games with the hip injury. Shannon Sharp is fractured little finger. He is questionable. And Keon Johnson missed the last 3. I think he had a hip injury as well. He is questionable. On the Dallas side, this is a 3-4 for them as well. They don't play again until next Tuesday. They, however, are probably going to see the return of Christian Wood. He has missed the last 2 games with a knee injury here. It looks like Damian Lillard as well as Winslow and Grant are all probable for tonight. Looks like we have pretty much everybody but Nurkic back and ready to go. How are you feeling about the Blazers tonight?
Yeah, so the Blazers are kind of the late version of the Pistons, where I have no idea how to even talk about them at this point. Like you said, Nurkic questionable, Jeremy Grant's probable, Keon Johnson questionable, Shadon Sharp questionable. The Nurkic news obviously is really big. He missed the last couple of games. We saw Drew Eubanks start and play about 22 minutes. Then we saw him play about 27 minutes in their last game. He is $4,100 on DraftKings. Just go right back to him if Nurkic is out. If Nurkic is in, obviously leave Eubanks alone. If everybody's in, this team looks wildly unappealing. The highest owned guys right now on DraftKings would be 1% owned Nurkic and 2% owned Grant. The price tags have come up a little bit with the exception of Nurkic, who's at 7,100. But when this team is fully healthy, they've frequently been closing with Justice Winslow in place of Nurkic. So the minutes are a little bit scary for him. It's not a big Dallas front court, so you could easily see, that happen again here. If everybody's in, I don't think it's very appealing. If Nurkic is out, Eubanks looks better. That's probably the only spot that I would really be getting to. If you get some other stuff like Sharp and Johnson out again or something like that, then Justice Winslow maybe starts to look a little bit more appealing at 4,800. Definitely keep an eye on this team, though, because not only do they have a lot of Q tags, but they weren't exactly honest with their injury report on Thursday. No guarantee they're going to do it again today. Not only did they had Nurkic and Grant as questionable, they had Keon Johnson not even on the injury report and ruled him out. They had Shadon Sharp probable and ruled him out. So certainly keep an eye on any changes that happen to this injury report throughout the day.
All right, chat having fun with me. I said Shannon Sharp. It's spelled out on my run sheet, so I wouldn't do it. So I would say Shannon Sharp. But years and years of Shannon Sharp. At least I didn't say Sterling Sharp. All right. Let me see here. We have for Dallas, you have Luka Doncic is essentially the right up there with the rest of the big dogs. Massive usage. He is very similar to Antetokounmpo and Jokic, or at least the Jokic of the last 2 seasons, in that he is leading his team in most categories. He is one of your favorite plays. What do you think about Luka Doncic?
A lot. He's another one where I think a lot is just going to depend on what value opens up. It seems pretty likely right now that there's going to be enough value that we can get to Luka relatively easily. We just don't know exactly where it is yet. So as a result, at the moment, we only have Luka projected for 5% ownership. But if you get the guys on Detroit out and the guys on Boston out, you're going to start being able to get to Luka pretty easily. He's averaged over 1.6 DraftKings points per minute this year. I think last slate was the first time all year I've been over the field on him. Obviously, he was horrible. That's just kind of how my season has gone so far. But I'll go right back to him if I can get to him. The price tag is, I think, pretty much correct at 12.6, but he's still averaging a little over 36 minutes per game and 1.64 DraftKings points per minute. Certainly going to be happy getting there. You mentioned Christian Wood being probable. That does make me more concerned about Spencer Dinwiddie. He's $6,700. He's been playing huge minutes, and that certainly could continue. So, like, there is still a path to success. But the reason I really like Dinwiddie in those last couple of games was that you're getting the second unit minutes for Dinwiddie with no Christian Wood out there, which basically just means all the usage in the world for Dinwiddie, and then, Tim Hardaway Jr. being the secondary option. When you have Wood out there, he's dominating usage, so it's going to cut into Dinwiddie a bit. It makes him and Hardaway look a lot less appealing than they would otherwise. So this is another team right now that I don't really think there's that much appeal. If you want to, if you can get to Luka, great. If you want to gamble on a pretty cheap Tim Hardaway Jr. and just hope it's one of those games where he's knocking down all of his shots, then by all means. But more value is probably going to open up that I would rather get to.
All righty. Anything else you want to talk about on this one, or should we maneuver to the last game of the night?
Christian Wood, 6,700, probably not getting there.
Okay. A separate question on him. How do you feel about him coming off the bench? Are you neutral? Do you think that favors him just a little bit?
I think so. Like, it's good for his rates because he's playing like 50% of his minutes without Luka.
Yeah.
It's not good for his minutes, but I don't really if he was starting, you project him for more minutes. But we've kind of already seen Jason Kidd give in and go to the Christian Wood closes and plays with the starters, and then said he's more or less in fewer words that he's not doing that regularly or again. So it kind of what Christian was just really difficult sort of to talk about. Like he's kind of unique in that he's so good on a per minute basis, but then it's really difficult to give him enough minutes because he doesn't start and he doesn't close.
All right. Final game of the night. We've got the Houston Rockets, who last played on a Wednesday, it looks like. So this is an island game for them. They are not taking the court until Monday when they host the Clippers. New Orleans, this is a 3-4 for them. They did not play last night. They don't play again until Tuesday, but it is a 3-4. You've got Jayshawn Tate out for at least another week with an ankle issue. Bruno Fernando out at least another week with a knee issue. I didn't see any news here on the Pellies. Do you have any Pellies injury concerns? I think everybody's healthy.
Yeah, their injury report's pretty clean. Kira Lewis, EJ Little, and Darion Sebron, who I do not know who that is, are all out, and that's it. So nobody that's in their rotation.
All right. Take us through the Rockets here. They are 10.5-point underdogs. Not that that matters, but we do have a 232 implied point total here. That is tops of the night, just 2.5 points ahead of our opening game, the Raptors at Pacers. What do you got here for the Rockets?
So the Rockets look really appealing here. Their pricing is pretty favorable. This is another team kind of like Charlotte, where they played insane minutes last game. And I'm not going to get carried away, trying to project that happens again. But it does just sort of make you feel a little bit better when you see that. Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green both played 40 minutes against Toronto. Porter's averaging around 35 minutes per game for the season. Green's around 34. Even if you go to those minutes, they look like pretty solid options here. So after a couple of teams where there's not been much that we can like, Houston pretty much across the board is getting ownership. $6,300 Jalen Green. He's scoring dependent, but he's going to get up a lot of shots. He's inefficient, but there's just going to be games where he destroys this price tag. He's averaging 0.95 DraftKings points per minute this year. If he plays around 34, 35 minutes, he is going to project pretty well. Kevin Porter Jr., 1.08 DraftKings points per minute. He's $7,600, getting 17% ownership. Şengün's averaging about 28 minutes per game as a starter. He's averaging 1.3 DraftKings points per minute at 6,900. He looks good. So all three of those guys look good. And then you kind of just get into rolling the dice on the secondary pieces. You can't be nearly as confident in the production or playing time for guys like Tari Eason or Usman Garuba or KJ Martin, but Garuba's probably giving you 14 to 16 minutes off the bench. Most likely ends up looking like a pretty weak value option by the time the slate rolls around. Right now, he's kind of appealing just because he's 3,200 and we haven't gotten any of these other guys ruled out. Tari Eason, kind of the same thing. I have him in for like 18 minutes. He's $4,200. Probably not going to be very useful by the time the slate gets here. Right now wouldn't be a bad play. Eric Gordon probably plays around 30 minutes at 4,300. So I think the clear priorities are Jalen Green, Şengün, Porter. Those guys aren't going anywhere. They look really good. If somehow no value opens up, then rolling the dice on whatever combinations you want of Eason, Garuba, Martin starts to look pretty appealing. Eric Gordon at 4,300, one way or the other, I think is a decent value just because he probably is getting around 30 minutes. He's averaged 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute this season, but the main pieces are going to look good no matter what. The cheap guys, it's really dependent on what other value opens up.
What do you put the odds at that someone gets the night off here for the Pellies? Just a rest game. Maybe they let it be Joval or Ingram or Nance.
Very low.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't play yesterday and nobody's on the injury report.
Yeah, and they don't play again until Tuesday. It's just like, it just always feels like someone is out for these guys, and that just a little odd that everybody is going to be good to go.
Yeah, they've just had a lot of injuries, though. It's not like they've been resting us.
Yeah. One other question on Şengün, comparing him to like Enes Kanter. Is he like the next evolution, right? A little better offensively, not quite the rebounder, but pretty damn good. Just an Olay defense. Is that a comparison, or do you think Şengün does have the ability to become at least a below average defender instead of a non-existent defender?
I mean, I don't watch him enough to have a real take on his defense. I think he's a really good offensive player.
All right.
So, or at least
essentially, yeah. So I think some situations he can be played off, but I think he has a better chance than Enes did of staying on the field, or Enes Freedom. Sorry, I forgot he changed his name. Let's see, a couple minutes left here. We're good on this game, I believe, Adam.
Yeah.
Reminder
we didn't do the Pell side.
Okay, Pell side, very, very crowded, very marginal point per dollar over there on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Hard to pinpoint anyone in particular, but Adam, if we're pinpointing someone in particular, who's it going to be?
Yeah, no, it is tough. Like when this team's healthy, it's just a situation where medium projections are not going to make anyone look really good. That is kind of nice in tournaments because it's going to keep ownership from being concentrated on anybody. And in any one given game, you can just get Brandon Ingram going off or Zion going off or McCollum or whoever. But, it's just difficult to prioritize them because they are going to eat into each other a bit. The one thing that I think really is important to point out, Joval, we know, is really good on a point per minute basis. He's only $7,400. He should absolutely eat against this front court. The issue is that he's averaging 24 minutes per game in games where Larry Nance has been active this year. You've essentially had Nance just playing as Joval's backup, typically being in the closing lineup. So it's really tough to give Joval enough minutes to want to get to him. If he somehow does get more minutes than normal, though, he probably does amazing. It's just, I don't know. I can't give him more than 24 or 25.
Okay, that makes sense. All righty, just real quick before we slide on out of here to get things underway for college football live before lock. That will be with Ben Rasa and Matt Kajewski starting at 11. We also have additional shows this afternoon at noon. You will be getting Greg Ehrenberg and Neil Orfield discussing some NFL strategy. And then, of course, you're going to get the deeper dive and live before lock tipping off at 5 o'clock tonight. Reminder, you can get 30 free days of Stokastic Platinum if you are not yet a member of PrizePicks and you sign up through our link. I'm going to drop in. We also have free projections for their site. Right now, the first couple that are on the board have about a 2 in 3 chance. of coming to fruition. Those are the early games we did not talk about. You've got Jared Vanderbilt going against Washington. He has a 7.5 line on his rebounds. We're projecting him for 8.8. He is always a good rebounder. Taking field goal attempts, well, that's another story, but I like his rebound prop. Paul George, we have the under on his points. I would look a little more closely at that one. We'll want to see who's in or out. But the John Collins one, rebounds over, they have him at 6.5 right now. We have him at 7.6. I think that is a decent over considering Okongwu is out. This is a site where you can always quickly check and see as news breaks to see if there's going to be any slightly weakened lines that are up there. Clint Capella, they don't have any rebound props for him. They do have his points, rebounds, and assists line up there. That looks relatively neutral, but he did have 20 rebounds in this same matchup on Thursday. Let me look real quick at what his PRA was. That's points, rebounds, and assists. Right now, he is at, they pulled that one too. Let me go. He's at 20.5. So he did that basically in rebounds alone. Never a guarantee, especially going against Joel Embiid, but it's good to see. So I would consider over his PRA at 20.5. You can see that directly on the PrizePicks site. We haven't run a new API update on that, but we'll get that in our projections shortly. But with that, we are going to get on out of here. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Thank you to BetMGM for also giving us a chance for 2 months of Stokastic premium content, as well as a risk-free $1,000 bet. And then, of course, Stokastic _COM is the Twitter handle where you can see everything going live. Hit the likes, hit the notification bell when you subscribe, see all the content going live here. You can follow Adam for all of the fireworks post DFS lock on his Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMac DFS. With that, thank you, producer Mike. Stay tuned. College football live before lock in 5 minutes.